good day, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you're listening to this. The premiere is going out at 7 o'clock, all being well. But you might be listening to this at a different time, so whatever time it is that you're here, thank you very much for being here. This is part 14 of my reading of the lectures of The Wisdom of the Fourth Way by Rebecca and Theodore Nottingham. We decided the other day on my live stream after part 12, before part 13 uploaded, but I'd already recorded it, decided that the next recording I was going to do the questions that are asked, I was going to do them in different voices. So yeah, that's how we're going to start off. Enjoy. Question.
I have made a profession out of personality, the raconteur, the improvisational conversationalist, and the transparency of one eye to the watcher means I can't fool myself. It may be fun, but it ain't work, and there are heaps of these guys, so the question is to do with attitude to the racket being exposed.
Response. Everyone comes into the work with their personality, whatever type it is, in full force. It is a condition sleeping humanity lives in. The work of self-observation, which is foundation in the process, requires intentional effort. Included in this intentionality is the practice of being uncritical about what one observes. If your observing eye responds with hating what it sees, then that is where you will be stuck, in a constant war between the observer and the observed. The whole point of self-observation is to give one an objective view of what one is really like. Without objectivity, you are not going to see anything. Keeping observing eye passive, that effort is part of making the effort to observe. When you have the psychological space that objectivity requires, you have a toehold on inner separation. Then you can observe personality in all of its manifestations. This type of observation after a long period of time will show you much about yourself. The aim of the work is to transform the acquired automatic behavior into enlightened, intentional action. In this process, the ego, false personality, made up of only self-interest, must be displaced gradually with a more evolved self. Purifying the emotional center, purifying the psychology of self-interest, is the substance of the work. I suggest that everyone in the work reflects upon their motives for making these efforts. If one's motives have something to do with gaining personal power, that self-interest will effectively block any kind of real development. You have made an interesting observation in seeing that you sacrifice yourself in order to appear natural to others. This is indeed the case, and can be easily verified by all who observe themselves honestly. False personality betrays essence when it seeks approval, pretends to be interested in things it is not in order to fit in, or the 1,001 ways it lies out of inner considering. The tragedy of false personality is that it does sacrifice our deeper selves, smothers our essence, and defeats our work aims for the sake of being accepted by others. This is a high price to pay, and almost everyone around us pays it for a lifetime. Question.
Allah false personality is still a speeding freight train, which cannot be stopped at times. This is a most surreal experience, to observe fake personality and watch in horror as it continues on. Could it be possible that I sense an almost mocking aptitude?
Response. It is necessary to know organically, from experience, the strength of false personality, and therefore see the condition of sleep. That of humanity and that of oneself. But what is it in you that sees? Contemplate this question. It will help define and strengthen that part of you. Question.
I observe that lately I have withdrawn from my friends and family to some degree. I find that it is with those that I am most familiar that I'd lapse into the deepest mechanical behaviour. How does one develop a proper outlet for social behaviour if one falls asleep when so doing? I have no impulse to talk to them about the work.
Response. When you find that your existing personality cannot handle a social situation, make the effort to make your personality passive. Just observe. Question.
Nicole observes in his commentaries that you cannot change if you stay the way you are. He describes self-observation as the cornerstone for these efforts. My question, which may appear a bit pedantic, is this. How can you know when you are uncritically observing yourself, whether or not you are still appearing through a filter of false personality? How does one verify that one travels in a sure and proper direction, and not further into the abyss of sleep and self-delusion? Somewhere I read, either in Plato or Aristotle, a similar conundrum. How can one learn anything new when one has not yet developed the faculty for reasoning it? Sometimes I wonder whether we live in little Alcatrazes of our own, dreaming of sleep and fantasizing that we are observing ourselves. Is this why Ouspensky says escape is impossible if attempted alone?
Response. False personality judges, criticizes, justifies, feels offended and gets angry, has likes and dislikes, attitudes, opinions, feels ashamed, and feels insecure. When you practice self-observation, if you find any of these elements in the observing I, then you are identified with what you are observing. That is a trap that leads to insanity. Observing I must be made objective, uncritical of what is being observed, yet seeing it clearly for what it is. Think of observing as taking photos, registering, passively seeing. What can you observe critically about being irritable? Is it an unpleasant feeling, or do you picture yourself as a lovable grouch? There is no such thing, by the way. Are there any eyes that secretly enjoy the zing of negative energy? What eyes are irritable? The ones that want something that they don't have. The ones that have to do something that they don't want to do. The ones that are feeling inadequate, unsatisfied, unsure. We could go on and on and on. But the point is that all of the above and more belong to inner considering, to acquired attitudes, likes and dislikes, etc. That is all that the work tells us that we must separate from. Knowing this can give you the force to become detached, and in that state of non-identification see clearly what intentional right action is. Then you lose all motivations and justifications for being irritable. So how do you know if you're observing yourself through a filter of fake personality? If observing I is objective, non-identified, then fake personality cannot be present. One must work at this also, making observing I not react with identification. This is difficult work as well, but it leads to liberation, to that escape from the prison of sleep that we seek. Uspensky was right about needing help. We need the help of knowing a way out and the help of someone who knows also that way from experience and can assist you through the difficulties and help you avoid the traps. Someone who really knows the way can help you to verify for yourself the ideas of the work and their transformative power. To be absolutely sure that your work is progressing in the proper direction is easy. Follow goodness. Seek to act with unself-interested intentionality. Every normally formed human being has the innate knowledge, faculty of recognition of what goodness is. The truth in it resounds in your soul with recognition. Earnest efforts will gradually create a stronger, real I in you. If you can recognize that your negative states are caused by the requirements that you have of the world, of people, of your life, in order to feel satisfied, then you will know that these requirements are based on false personality and inner considering. We work against these by making personality passive, by inner separation, by non-identification, by recognizing that inner considering is only self-interest, by sacrificing your need to be gratified. Be patient while working. Results are usually a long time in coming, but growth is every step of the way. Observe identification. See the strength of the grip that it has on you. See the same grip it has on others. See how it fills you with energy, how you get a little thrill from the jolt of it. See how it is full of justification. See that the agenda that fires your identification is self-serving, and so is the next person's and the next, though the identifications may oppose one another. This is where to make personality passive. The why is so that you can see through the false personality and all of its obstructions to a higher state of scale and relativity, which can free you from identification. Essence is the innate nature that you are born with, whether you are active or passive, positive or negative type, or whether you are predisposed to being centered in the intellectual center, the emotional center, or the moving instinctive center, all belong to essence with which you are born. You can verify this by observing the striking differences in types among very young infants and children. This essence, which is your nature, then interacts with the external circumstances and events of your life's experience to form a personality. Example: an active, negative type born in a large family may develop a loud, hyperactive personality in order to compete for the attention it desires. Then, the influences of culture, family attitudes, opinions, and behavior are all imitated or rejected automatically. Clearly, there are an infinite number of combinations of essence and experience which produce the unique individuals who are nevertheless all stimulus-response organisms. This is a natural and necessary developmental process of acquiring a personality that can interact with the world and events. However, from the work point of view, this acquired personality is created on the basis of self-interested need that originates in brainstem urges for self-preservation. So the acquired personality is called false personality in the work because it has been created through environmental influences and self-interest as opposed to enlightened or objective knowledge. It is mechanical, functions on automatic, and is asleep. The process of awakening in the work leads to true personality. Through the process of self-observation, inner separation, non-identification, we learn to see that our automatic behavior does not reflect our true self. The efforts undertaken reveal to us the malformation of our psychology. The accumulated eyes of observation gain strength enough eventually so that one may act intentionally rather than mechanically. This intentionality issues from a true personality. It is not based on self-interest, but rather on objective consciousness. Long-term self-observation will strip away or melt away or burn away the wrong work of false personality bit by bit. Although the process is painful, to be rid of any unnecessary suffering and have the clarity of mind and strength of will to act intentionally is liberation from the chains of mechanicalness that bind us in sleep. Psychological freedom brings new life expressed in true personality. True personality still contains essence, types, and different centers of gravity, but they are all at the service of higher consciousness. This means that you are more honestly yourself than you can ever achieve through any avenue of false personality. A person developed in the work, to the degree that they are relatively free from the power of false personality, can interact with life and people with a clearer perspective on reality. The obstructions of inner considering, mechanical momentum, feature and identification lose power as true personality evolves. What you are seeing when you experience yourself as simply a bundle of tape recordings and reactions, responding from these, is false personality. It is relevant because it makes up your present reality. You do have a true self, which through doing the work will lead you to discover. The process of discovery begins with relentless practice of self-observation. It is imperative that one is uncritical of what is being observed. You are not only programs and mechanics, there is something in you that is authentic, unique behind all of these things. That real I, true self, begins to gain strength or surface with the first observation of false personality. Since you know already that there is something in you that isn't only mechanical, the I that knows this is the I of self-observation. That I is the beginning of who you are, real I. And although at some level we are all one, we are also each completely unique. Once you have observed in yourself and verified that sleep and mechanicalness and false personality exist not only in you but also in everyone else, it becomes easier to forgive because you can understand the nature and the power of sleep. This helps to reinforce real I, which then gives you more power to forgive and understand. Understand that the desire to be seen, noticed, have importance, be accepted, feel appreciated are all natural strivings that arise from the brainstem urges that seek the security and connectedness of social relationships. So these emotions are not only a natural function of the human personality, but they are the same in everyone, regardless of whether that person has developed a personality that manifests those urges differently. Question.
Then there is the issue of compensation. In order to compensate for what may be a fear of being invisible, or a belief I refuse to see that I am invisible, I exaggerate. I must excel at everything. In the past, as a much younger man, I dressed very lavishly. At a younger age, I weightlifted. As a student in university, I wrote essays that stood out by covering a subject as completely as possible, often 2, 3, or 4 times the length that was required. Today, I have my own office in the most prime location possible. Of course, it is never enough, and deep down there is often a sense that I am faking it, that I am an imposter. All this from a deep need to be seen, to matter. To be invisible is a painful, humiliating experience.
Response. Of course it is never enough, partly because gratification seeking has no end, and partly because this sense you have of faking it or being an imposter comes from a deeper level than the world can satisfy. This deep need you have to be seen, to matter, is only painful or humiliating if you believe it is. In reality, it is unnecessary suffering, and you can simply let it go with the recognition that you do not want vanity governing your life and actions. There is a paradox here. This deep need to matter can be strictly vanitas, emptiness, or it can be, even at the same time, the force behind the effort to find meaning. Finding real meaning in your life makes all the small eyes of self-interest fade into nothing. The next time you find yourself feeling these emotions, make an exercise to turn your psychology around 180 degrees and concern yourself with everyone else's welfare, everyone else's needs. If you are not tangled up in inner considering, you may notice that someone else is in need, or that everyone else is full of inner considering as well. They are adjusting their clothes, worrying about their breath, smoothing down their hair, flirting and showing off, bragging, telling jokes, being vulgar, or anything else to get attention. The difference is that they cannot see this. You have seen, and so you have made the first step in the possibility of self-transformation. Seeing is the first step to change if you are willing to. If you are with a group of people and you are all operating fully in false personality, then each of you has self-interest as motivation for your personal agenda, which forms requirements of this event. You each want to be appreciated. Behind your empathic interest with the others may even be the intent of being seen as amiable and as a good person or a compassionate friend. You're worried if you still have garlic on your breath from lunch. You're resenting someone else's inattentiveness or perceived insult. You want to make your point. You want your point to be heard, understood, and validated by everyone so that you know that you're right, and so that they know that you're right. You're flirting with someone who is married, and you're insulted when they don't flirt back. You wonder what's wrong with them. Then you wonder what's wrong with you. Then you wonder if you're talking too much, or if you really like these people after all, and on and on. There is no useful exchange of energy in this kind of situation. It is all automatic, mechanical, predictable, and pointless. However, let's say you're with a group of people and you are not in false personality, which is made up mostly of inner considering. What might be going on with you in these circumstances? Might you not be able to see the condition of sleep, the flow of mechanicalness, the predictable stimulus response behavior, how negativity is contagious, how it most often runs the show, and how one association leads to another, how people use buffers, what pictures they have of themselves, what issues they are dealing with, what level their being is, what their features are, what their suffering is about. If you're in external considering, seeing from this point of view will evoke compassion for everyone's wrong work and forgiveness. You could soothe the insecurity of one, absorb passively the negativity of another, include the excluded ones, and generally respond with conscious, intentional words and actions appropriate to the circumstances. I hope that you will agree that this would be a better place to be in. If you do, then imagine you're meeting with these people if they were also all externally considering. You can freely give to them your attention and care, and they give back the attention and care that you need, which will be an entirely different kind of need than that which comes from false personality. That is an appropriate exchange of energies between people, each externally considering the other. Now imagine the whole world like that. Everyone externally considering everyone else all through their lives. No fear, no hate, no taking, only giving and receiving. That would be purpose enough, don't you think? To do your own part in it, to be one more person on that side of consciousness. Question.
How can I instill in myself a presence for the work-eyes that have all the appearance of being the interlopers of my being?
Response. First, know that they are not interlopers. Work eyes oppose what you have already known as yourself, but they come from you. They are in you, and even dormant, they are more you than any imitation or pretense. The aim in the work is to change. Is this your aim? Then you must change your cherished sense of yourself. If you want to do the work, then you must continue to practice. Be passive to the resistance of false personality. Expect it and just observe. Observe how personality doesn't want to change, doesn't want to make any efforts, especially ones that eliminate its existence. Through the long process of self-observation, work eyes accumulate. You will gain a sense of authentic self versus imitation and pretense, gradually. So this is part of necessary suffering. That is, sacrificing false personality, which is always painful in some way, in order to gain a sense of real self that is more truly you, and in which there is no pretense. Question.
It seems insulting to ego to submit to this observing and separation.
Response. Observing I exists, although dormantly, throughout the adult life of every person. Each person has momentary glimpses of that higher perspective. In the work, we make the effort to observe and separate for the purpose of growing. It is more than insulting to the ego. It's the end of its tyranny. Question.
So, how do we affect a shift in attention from the false personality to the observing I?
Response. Begin by trying to notice or even just sense your state. Note also that observing I is elusive in the beginning and ineffectual, however. With practice and patience, observing I gains presence and grows in relation to real efforts. Question.
This state is utterly useless and of no real value.
Response. That's why you're in the work. Being mechanical has no meaning and it always leaves you feeling empty. Question.
Sorry, not really a question there. Just a realization of the futility of filling oneself with momentary and transitory excitements.
Response. False personality and the eyes of inner considering can never be satisfied. These aspects always need more attention, more gratification. Notice that when you have requirements, let's say of another person, and that person gives you what you want at the moment, the next moment you want more, or something else. These transient eyes associate without discretion and keep your attention and momentum on automatic. We must always return to the work of self-observation. It's the hard labor of bricklaying, but it builds something. Question.
On a couple of occasions, I've been able to interact normally while observing myself. At other times, I cannot do this and fall silent.
Response. That silence, though awkward, contains the possibility of not acting mechanically. If you are confused in this silence, let go of the requirements you have that are creating confusion. Practice inner stop and accept the silence. Question.
But the silence makes others feel uncomfortable. I do not wish to appear self-absorbed. Is this wish not external consideration in some degree?
Response. Possibly. It may be external considering. But I would say that this is an unavoidable experience in the early stages of the work. Other people will find that you are behaving differently. They may or may not be comfortable with that. That is their problem. Yours is to be able to interact in a sincere way without experiencing the absence of personality. I'm sorry, but this takes practice like any other achievement. It is something that you have to work at, and in the beginning, it is awkward and confusing and out of pace with the flow of false personality around you. Question.
I can see imitation in others far more clearly than in myself. I see them make silly faces or grimaces, which they probably think demonstrates to others some wonderful quality. Though I wonder what I do that I cannot see as well. It all appears to be affectation and completely unnecessary. I would like to see it more in myself and less in others. Response.
What you are observing is false personality, and you are probably seeing more falsehood in it than ever before. Keep trying to see yourself objectively. Practice at observation creates a better quality of observation. Question.
Why is there the automatic reaction of irritation when seeing falsehood in myself or others?
Response. Falsehood is impossible to deal with psychologically. There is no ground beneath it. It's uncomfortable and frustrating. Question.
So you say that false personality is the result of wrong work of the emotional centre?
Response. Not exactly. False personality is what you have acquired since birth and is based on the wrong work of the emotional center. Question.
This is connected with a distinction between the active me, whose eyes are in operation with the psychological absorption attending them, and the observing I that must passively and helplessly watch on. I have made some efforts along these lines, and I have found that it is useful in some cases to allow the eyes to continue expressing themselves and the illicit observing I in the passive mode, even having a helpless feeling with it. Notice, express the I and watch. The immediate urge to somehow change the I seems to me to be the false personality's attempt to clean up what you're observing. This way, the false personality thinks it has improved matters, and one can now stop observing because everything is better now. This can muddy real observation.
Response. This is a subtle and important perception. It is very common to find false personality trying to imitate what it believes is a work personality for anyone's best benefit, including your own. I am so glad that you continued reading about internal and external considering. This area of study in the work is profoundly enlightening and gives you a good sense of where you are going. Question.
I saw myself today, and I saw a buffer quickly interceding to protect an apparent inner contradiction. While on the telephone, I made a comment that was out of alignment with my work demeanour. In fact, it was a clear misstatement. I had said that I had complained about something the other day when this was not really the case. I had actually only brought attention to the subject out of concern. My statement was called into question by my friend, and I had to admit that I did not mean to say that I'd complained about it at all. I was only being flippant and unnecessarily severe in my comments. At this moment, I saw myself. I could see that I was operating from a set of eyes associated with my friend on the telephone, and not the eyes that I often operate from when alone or with someone else. This was clearly a separate set of eyes, and the sudden observation of them was jarring. Also, at this moment, I felt the imposition of a buffer, whose intent was to protect me from this observation. I was able to refuse the buffer and alter the set of eyes. I felt the need to physically change my posture, to sit down and operate from more sober and less flippant work-related eyes. My tone of voice changed, and I began to express myself in a more sincere and genuine way through the rest of the phone call. After the phone call, I found myself struggling to keep this impression before my mind, wishing to keep this observation vivid. By doing this, I could see better what artificiality in myself means. And I could then see new eyes coming in to follow up behind the earlier ones and quietly take me on to the next state.
Response. You caught a glimpse also of false personality, which is what generated the exaggeration. That you were able to pull yourself up out of the momentum of the false personality, and the eyes particularly related to this person required intentional effort. I'm sure you consider it worth it. To be functioning rightly according to work knowledge, at any time is a real foundational movement of your psychology in the right direction. Question.
I don't understand. I seem to have a problem of accepting feelings in terms of my psychology. They are from a different part than thinking, aren't they?
Response. Yes, but your psychology is not your thinking process. It's the makeup of your whole psyche. When I ask you to define your feelings, then try speaking in terms that describe the emotional center's experience. Question.
You mean you want me to tell you what the feeling was? To name it?
Response. Yes. In this insecurity, is it vanity? Is it identification? Is it fear? Etc. This is what I mean. What feeling generates the inner considering?
So it's probably insecurity and fear. Vanity is just a way to cover it up, I think.
Response. Now try to define where the insecurity comes from. And is it a valid state or a habitual attitude? Question.
Is it correct to say that essence has the potential to surface amongst friends?
Response. Essence is more easily accessed or activated in a comfortable, non-threatening, informal situation among friends. But it can surface anywhere.
Should I look for this quality or taste of essence, or set this aside for now and focus on pacifying my personality?
Response. It wouldn't be particularly productive to focus on essence right now. Essence evolves as false personality falls away. It makes its own expression known without you having to dig for it. Making personality passive is one of the most helpful things you can do at this point. Question.
Would this render me cheerless?
Response. I hope not. There is a stage in the work that can last a long time when silence and retreat and reflection are most important. This has a definite effect on your personality, and it may seem flat, especially to others who know you. It is not that you are rendered cheerless, it's just that you are changing and becoming more serious during this stage. What emerges gradually is authentic joy from essence expressed in true personality. Boom! So I'm going to wrap it up right now. 43 minutes. These questions go on for quite a few more pages. So 43 minutes in, I'm going to wrap it up. Hope you enjoyed the voices. It's actually much more difficult than you think, than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be really easy because I've always got these voices what comes out, yeah. But the thing is, it comes out better when I'm when it just comes off the top of my head, and I'm not trying to do anything, you know. But when effectively what I'm doing here is I'm reading a script, and so I've got to say what's there.
And the thing is, right, I don't know, it's just more difficult when you're trying to put voice on.
And I didn't want to make these into like some sort of theatrical fucking performance, but I just want to make it a little bit more interesting to listen to. Because I don't know about you, but I get a little bit bored of my voice after some time. It has got this quality that just makes you want to go to sleep. Perhaps I should do meditation. Let me know what you think about that. Do I have the sort of voice that could put people into deep meditation? Or maybe hypnosis? Anyway, much love, peeps. I will see you later. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.